Hi there, my name is Michele Marsland of Marsland Accountants, and we deal a lot with the Let Property campaign. And my question today is, should we accept or should we reject? That is the question. Aha. Well, the funny thing is about HMRC and dealing with HMRC on a regular basis, like we do with the Let Property campaign, is you see a lot of things going on. Now, sometimes some people get a rejection letter and they go, oh my God, that's really bad news. We look at a rejection letter and we go, well, actually, maybe that's not such bad news, because often we find in our experience, it's actually not a rejection. It's just a misunderstanding of the rules in place. So don't panic if you've had a rejection letter. That would be my first thing. If you've had an acceptance letter, you probably wouldn't be watching this, but more likely you'd be watching this if you've had a rejection letter or if HMRC have asked for more information after you submitted your Let Property campaign disclosure. So that's what this video is trying to cover for you a bit. So yeah, if you had an acceptance letter, like I say, you probably wouldn't be watching this. You'd probably be very pleased and just thank goodness it's all over. And please make sure you submit your tax return from now on, please, honestly. So if you've had a rejection letter, just read it carefully. A lot of HMRC standard letters are standard letters, okay? So there's a lot of blurb in there and a lot of it will just confuse you. Find the paragraph that says why they're rejecting it. Now, for example, in a recent rejection letter, we had that they were rejecting it because the tax calculated was wrong for one of the tax years. So we've submitted like 4 or 5 tax years and one of the tax years they disagree with. So then we looked into it more to find out why it was being rejected. And it turns out it was being rejected because HMRC Let Property Campaign Department don't fully understand the implications of interest that is being charged to the client or been given to the client on an interest-bearing account. And because that had been dealt with in PAYE coding, which is not the same department, because they didn't understand it, they said it was wrong. So we worked it all out and it wasn't wrong. We were right in the first place. But of course, the client, if you're not careful, people might think, oh my God, I'm wrong. HMRC are right. No, they're not. Sometimes they are not always right. And that's one of the first things I would say. If you've done all of this claim up to now by yourself, please don't think you can't ask for advice from somebody like ourselves at Marsland Accountants to help with your rejection, because this is where we understand the rules so much better. And it could be you have made a mistake, fair enough, but it's always best to get these things checked out. And so for a decent fee, we could help you check that out to make sure, especially if you're paying quite a bit of extra tax that you don't think you should be due, that we can check that out for you. But yeah, rejection letter is not always such a bad thing. Just make sure that what they're rejecting on. Sometimes it might be they're rejecting because of the amount of penalty that you've offered. It might be the HMRC penalties have rules basically around how much they're prepared to accept. And if you've offered too low a penalty or no penalty, chances are they won't accept that, all right, depending on how long you've owed for, etc., etc. So yeah, so don't panic if you've got a rejection letter. Make sure you understand why you've been rejected and make sure it is your error, not their error. Like I say, on the majority of cases we found where we have had a rejection letter, it has been a HMRC error, and it always been because the P60 or some other figures in the client's information doesn't add up to what it should add up to. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that people realise that a rejection is not such a bad thing. The other thing a HMRC may have asked for is for some more information. So they might not accept you and they might not reject you, but they might want a little bit more information. This one's a lot harder for me to do in a video, but often the more information is just a misunderstanding of maybe something that you've given. So it might be that you've put something maybe in the wrong box or something like that. Yeah, that's easily done. It might be that you haven't calculated the interest using their interest calculation. Like I say earlier, it might be that you haven't offered the penalties that are acceptable to them. So it could be that they're just asking for more information. Might be as simple as just what's the property address, because they haven't got that on their records. So just have a little look what more information they're asking for. And this is only if you're on the Let Property campaign. If you're under a tax inquiry, they will more likely be asking for a lot more information, which is why I always say to people, please come clean before HMRC get to you, because honestly, you know, it's so much easier going through that route. And the other thing not to do is to just tell them that you only had income from this tax year when actually you've been having it for quite a few years, because then they will raise a tax inquiry into you. All right, so because that's those sort of questions, and they're much more in depth. All right, so that I'm putting a serious face on now, all right, but the HMRC inquiry is much more in depth, whereas the Let Property campaign amnesty, it might feel like inquiry to you, but it's actually a good place to be. All right. So yeah, acceptance, brilliant news. Rejection, just look into it properly, asking for more information. Maybe that's the time to really seek some extra help from people like ourselves who specialise in the Let Property campaign, because this is where our knowledge can really help save you time, money, and a lot of stress. Time to shine.